No foot, no horse. That's a statement that's been around forever. Probably ever since two guys raced their horse across an open field or an old plow horse just refused to pull that plow anymore. Hi, I'm Ian McKinley, and welcome to the world of the horse's foot. It's a vast world, but we're going to try and help steer you through it so you don't make some of the mistakes a lot of people make that own horses. When I was 13 years old is when I first started helping my dad. My dad was one of the guys who pioneered repairing quarter cracks back in the mid-60s. At 16, my dad's back went out, and one of his clients had brought a horse up to our farm to have the foot fixed, and Dad said, go ahead and fix that foot, at least get started on it. So I tore over there, and by the time my dad got there, needless to say, the job was done. And that was the first one, and I'll never forget it, probably because my dad told his client to write the check out to me because I'd done the work. And that you don't forget when you're 16. So that set my course for life. And now it's 2006. I've been under thousands and thousands of horses since then, probably seeing most problems that you can imagine in a horse's foot. The one thing that's always been the same throughout the years is the owners or the trainers ask me, why this happened and how do I prevent it? So I decided maybe I should put together a DVD and see if I can help educate people to what they're trying to find out. So I was telling one of my good friends, a blacksmith, about this plan I had, and he said, Ian, you better get yourself a suit of armor because as soon as you contradict one of these blacksmiths, they're just going to tear you to shreds. Well, that didn't sound too appetizing, so I thought, why don't I get some of my clients, I've worked for some fabulous people, and I'll get their input on horses' feet and what they've done, how they diagnose it. So when I approached them, I was very gratified. All of them said without hesitation, geez, I'd love to be part of this project. Sounds like it's great for the whole industry. And as you see, you'll read their credentials. They are very, very gifted horsemen and women. And their knowledge is spectacular. And the way they come across, you can feel it's heartfelt. They put their lives into horses. That's their career, and that's what they're dedicated to. So now, just sit back and enjoy. Remember one thing, though. This is just our opinions. Make sure you run everything you're going to try to do in your horse based on what we say across your vet. What I do with one horse doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work with the next one. I've for instance, glued on shoes on a horse. I thought for sure that horse would be sound, and the 3 days later, he's dead sore. So every case is different. It's not as easy as it seems. But anyway, let's get into this. So the first question I asked my pros was, how does the foot affect the overall health of a horse?
Well, the foot is a foundation for a horse, and growing up that was one thing we always heard from my grandfather and all old-time horsemen: no foot, no horse. And I think it's true today, and I think you know, the speeds we go and the concussion we put on those feet, it's just a tremendous strain on horses' feet all the time when they have to perform at the levels we ask them to.
How important the horse's foot is, the old axiom, no foot, no horse, and most or a great deal of our lamenesses that we deal with revolve around some indication of soreness in the foot.
Well, I think when we get started in the training and we get down to serious, workouts and so forth, if we don't have a good foot, meaning balanced and a sound horse and a foot that's going to stand up to the rigors of training, we're going to lose it all. The worst, I think, nightmare for a horse trainer is when you get to the point where you're up to an important race and then you lose the foot.
Well, I've always said, the hoof is so important to the horse. No hoof, no horse. That's a big thing. So when the feet go, we have major problems on these race horses. So usually if the foot goes, everything seems to go wrong after that. So you have to be very careful that these horses' hooves are in great shape at all times.
When you talk about the importance of the hoof for the overall well-being of the horse, without a good foot on a horse, you really have nothing, especially in the reining horse business, where we do the sliding stops, where they really need a good solid foot behind to give them a base to slide on. And then obviously the front end takes a lot of wear and tear from the fast spins that we do.
For dressage horses, the hoof is everything. If you don't have 4 super good feet underneath of you, you don't have a good dressage horse. Every step in dressage is so important, and every step is scored and balanced and judged. So if you don't have 4 very, very good feet, you're not going to get real far in dressage.
Well, you just heard it quite a bit. No foot, no horse. All these professionals have a very healthy respect of that foot and the role it plays in the health of that horse. Now the next question we got into, what happens if you ignore one of them hoof problems?
A bad-footed horse can cost you immensely, and I really feel sorry for people that have horses with bad feet. Some of them know what they got and they take care of them. Some of them try to take care of them and never get it done. But bad feet are sometimes a detriment to the horse, always expensive to the owner. So be sure you know whether that horse has good feet or bad feet going in, because it always costs more to work on a horse from a farrier standpoint that has bad feet, because it takes a lot more time and a lot more work. And then sometimes you may not get the required or the desired result. It can be very expensive. I would say that if I had the choice between buying a horse that was beautiful with bad feet or one that was not that beautiful with good feet, I'd take the one with good feet.
Having trouble with the feet is very costly, and the most costly is not knowing what it is. Because you go on, you x-ray, you don't find anything in the x-rays, you nuclear scan, you come up negative there, but it might highlight a foot. Then you take the shoe off and look at the foot and you find a rotten spot under there, an abscess coming, and then you've spent $2,000 between training and vet bills to find out you have a sore foot.
A problem foot affects the overall health of the horse in the fashion that it affects each joint of the limb as you go up. If you have a problem foot, an unstable foot, compare it to an unstable foundation to a house. The house structure will not hold up, therefore the horse's limb would not hold up either.
The horse, because he's a quadruped, is such a great compensator. And the problem might have begun in the right front, but it was so darn subtle nobody really noticed it. And then to compensate, it went to the left hind. And then, because the left hind was overloading, it went to the right hind. And then now both there's a problem behind, so now it goes into the back. And eventually it goes over to the left front, and now it's in all corners plus the back. And so to start to sort it out, you've got to find the primary and the secondary, and you got to treat them all. Years ago, we used to be just symptomatic treaters. If a horse was lame in his right front, the vet would come and he'd address the right front, and as soon as the horse was fixed in the right front, then his job was done. But now that's not the case, because when there's one problem, almost surely there's at least one more, if not 2 or 3 more.
I think that the feet cause a lot of secondary lameness in our hunter industry. We try to keep the aluminum shoes on them so they move as pretty as they can, and we have to have them quiet, so that recalls a lot of work and lunging, and sometimes the feet, they're just not as strong as they can be, and I think if you're not really on top of the feet, you have other issues. Suspensories is mostly what we see.
Well, now you get into costs. They're talking about secondary lameness. I hear a lot of guys will make a statement, well, he'll just learn to live with it. Well, he will learn to live with it, and he'll learn how to get along with it. He'll start changing the way he walks, and then all of a sudden, that's when secondary lameness comes in. He alters everything about the way he lives to compensate for that foot. And the one that'll really learn to live with it is the guy riding his back, because he's going to be paying the bills when all these things come together and it blows apart. So this leads to knowledge, and that was the next question I had for the pros. At that level, where do you gain your knowledge?
The owners today are caught up so busy in the world of business and trying to enjoy their horses and do things that they don't have the time that it takes to know everything about a horse. But if they want the whole horse to keep going, they need to understand that foot better. Because once any one of the 4 stops, everything comes to a screaming halt, especially in performance horse business. There's just simple things out there that they can better understand, and they will know whether or not it makes any type of sense or that it's totally ridiculous. I'm not saying everything that's on paper and ink is correct, but there's a lot out there, a lot of valuable information, written, internet, but the more that they do understand, especially with the anatomy of the foot, the better that they'll be able as owners to follow and comprehend what is being said to them is either right, wrong, or makes sense.
If you go into a tack shop, you'll find that there's every kind of a hoof ointment and feed supplement and vitamin and stuff to feed your horse to enhance his performance, and the same has to do with horseshoeing and all aspects of things. And there's a lot of bogus information out there. Good basic horsemanship is really quite simple. It's not rocket science, but like common sense, good common horsemanship is pretty rare.
Is there a lot of bad information out there? You better believe it. And guys are so misinformed. And another thing is, as far as the horseshoers are concerned, they try to make a lot of situations complicated when it's very simple. And if they would stay with basics, they'd keep themselves out of hot water. But when they try to make it complicated and put problems into the situation that are not there, they really get in trouble. And that goes for the owners also. When they're uneducated, they can be hoodwinked by somebody, a horseshoer that's uneducated, and it turns into a disaster.
In most cases, owners today are people that own a horse or two or three, let's say, and when one of them doesn't work or whatever, they sell it and get another, but they own one or two horses all the time. And so if you have a horse that had navicular, then suddenly you're knowledgeable about navicular, and the next horse you buy is certainly going to have beautiful navicular x-rays. Not that they mean anything, but that's what you know all about that. And when the next horse has a wind problem, then you're going to have them all scoped and galloped, and you're going to be so much more knowledgeable about wind on the next horse you buy than anybody else. And that's part of the learning process. And until you really have a horse farm, horse operation, a riding school, or whatever it is people do with numbers, you're not going to probably become very well versed on feet and the problems and the things that are keeping up to date, like in medicine or anything else. You deal with the horse you have.
Yeah, I think today that the young people need to listen to the older horsemen. I think the older horsemen are a real dying breed, and the knowledge that some of these guys have, I love to listen to the older horsemen, and I think so often the younger guys, they think they know it all, and there's nothing like experience. The older I get, the more I know I don't know enough. So I think, again, that being open, trying to learn, trying to get educated, and sooner rather than later, not at the horse's expense. So often we learn through our horses having bad experiences. Yes, that's part of life. But if we can be a little smarter and get help before you have a bad experience.
Well, the only way anybody learns anything about doing anything or the knowledge you learn in the horse business is by doing it. I don't care who you are or what you do. You can read a book and learn a little bit, or horseshoeing or anything else. But the only way you learn anything is by doing it, by being around people that are good and successful and know what they're doing, and picking up little things from them. I've been on my own for 30 years. I never worked for anybody. Everything I learned, I've done it from watching the people that are good at what they do and common sense. Common sense in the horse business will get you 75% of where you need to be. If you'll think about what you're doing and be smart about what you're doing and use your common sense about right and wrong, you'll be okay. You'll be a lot better than you think you will. But be around people that are good, be around people that will talk to you, and you can ask them questions, and that's how you learn, is by asking questions and watching people that are good at what they do.
Now you're learning that paper refuses no ink. Everything you read out there isn't necessarily true. A lot of this will come right back to common sense, just as they said. And the one thing that Ann said is very crucial. Don't learn at your horse's expense. It's a very tough thing to see your horse hobbling around from some mistake you've made. And the next thing is learn, get around the people who are very gifted at what they do. When they've got a great reputation, they've got it for a reason. They're loaded with knowledge. The next question I asked Jim Bays, how'd you get your education, or where do most blacksmiths get theirs? Because it's a very, very tough trade to learn, and this is a great answer.
In horseshoers, it's like anything else. There is good, bad, in between. You don't learn to shoe a horse overnight. It takes a long time and a lot of patience. Several teachers, they used to do apprenticeships, and when the guy left, he knew exactly what his teacher knew. So he'd made a clone. Well, maybe he made a good clone, maybe he made a bad clone. They had both. You can learn something from everybody if you'll just watch. And everybody has one little thing that would really fit good in your program. And eventually, when you put them all together, well, you're on your way. Takes a lot of horses, though. And it's a hard game to learn because nobody really has a practice horse. And that's what you need. So you skate on awful thin ice for a long time.
I started out as a clone back 30 years ago, and since then, from being around so many different blacksmiths and vets, it's just added to my knowledge. It's just, it was very crucial to me to move forward in my trade. Now the next thing comes down to teamwork to get the job done. As they say, teamwork makes the dream work. And this is what a couple of the pros have to say about teamwork.
I don't like to blow my horn or the blacksmith's horn. I just think that we're an important cog in the wheel. I mean, the groom is important, the veterinarian's important, the trainer's important, the breeder's important. You know, everybody plays a part. And the success you have, and that's what I said earlier, is when everybody works together. So that you're not bumping heads and you're not bumping up against some veterinarian's ego or some trainer who refuses to you know, recognize your ability, your skill, or to try something different, or to trust you, or whatever.
When trying to make a horse perfect, particularly a performance horse, when you want one to go to the top and you want one to be at the top and to split the hairs in a competition with the other contenders, then the whole team, the vets, the farriers, the grooms, the owners, everybody needs to be pulling together and making that happen. And I think that what I was saying earlier was that when someone sends me a horse to train, I hope they respect me enough to let me do my job and let me at it, because that is what I do, and I have a reputation for doing it a certain way. And when I hire a farrier, I do the same thing. I try to hire a farrier who is got a good reference and seems to be oriented in the right way and wants to perfect his profession.
Well, as you just heard, there's no room for ego when it comes to repairing a horse's foot or any type of problem you're trying to solve with a horse. Now you've heard from all the pros, and they've weighed in on what we've asked them. The next chapters we're going to cover will be pre-purchase, then we'll switch to diagnosing hoof lameness, then we'll get into what causes these problems and what the solutions are. We're going to touch on how to balance a horse's foot, how to look at a foot and get it balanced to your eye. And the last one will be prevention, and that'll be what sums it up. If we can be preventative in what we do, it'll save you and your, I guess, your checkbook more than anything. The amount of money you can save being preventative is astronomical. So let's move on.